You call the service?" The booming voice of a sharply dressed man shook the luxurious dining hall like a sudden clap of thunder. Every fork, every glass, and every whispered conversation came to a halt. The chandelier above shimmered against the silence as dozens of eyes turned toward the source of the commotion. At the center stood Amira Daniels, a young black waitress in her crisp uniform, balancing a tray of crystal glasses. Her hands trembled slightly, not from weakness, but from the piercing humiliation that weighed down on her shoulders. She had been mocked before, but never like this, never in front of so many people who were now waiting to see what she would do. The man who caused the uproar was Kareem Al-Sayed, a billionaire businessman whose name echoed in every financial magazine. Known for his luxury hotels, fleets of private jets, and ruthless deals, he carried himself like a man above the law, above respect, above everyone. His entourage surrounded him, men and women dressed in designer suits, sipping champagne as if arrogance itself was part of the menu. As Amira carefully placed the glasses in front of him, Kareem leaned back in his leather chair, smirked, and muttered in Arabic, his words dripping with insult. "This ignorant maid can't even serve a glass of water properly." The table roared with laughter. Some covered their mouths, others didn't bother. To them, this was nothing but a cruel joke at the expense of a waitress who didn't belong in their world of wealth. But what Kareem didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Amira wasn't just a waitress. Behind her quiet eyes lay years of discipline, sacrifice, and education. She had worked jobs like this not because she lacked ability, but because she had dreams bigger than most of people in that room. And fate had just handed her the moment that would change everything. Her breath deepened. Her hands stopped shaking. Slowly, she lifted her head and looked Kareem straight in the eye. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. If Kareem thought his language was a weapon, he was about to find out he had just armed the wrong person. The laughter at Kareem's table was still echoing when Amira opened her mouth, and what came out froze them all. In perfect, fluent Arabic, Amira replied, her voice steady and clear. "Manners cannot be bought with money, and respect is not served by waiters. It is earned by the man himself." The word struck the table like a slap across the face. Kareem's smile vanished instantly. His entourage, moments ago laughing loudly, now sat in stunned silence, eyes darting between their billionaire friend and the waitress who had just dismantled his arrogance in his own tongue. A hush fell over the entire restaurant. Even diners from distant tables leaned in, stunned. The staff peeked from the kitchen, wide-eyed. This wasn't just a waitress anymore. This was a woman standing with the kind of dignity money could never buy. Kareem's eyes narrowed. For perhaps the first time in years, he was speechless. The room that usually bent to his every word now seemed to bend to hers. How do you speak Arabic?" he stammered finally, switching to English as if retreating to safer ground. Amira didn't flinch. She adjusted the tray, her posture graceful, and replied with calm confidence, "I studied languages at university. Arabic was my passion. I didn't expect to use it here, tonight, but maybe I was meant to." The whispers began to spread. Guests who had dismissed her moments earlier now watched with respect. Some even smiled, as if rooting for her against the mighty billionaire. Kareem shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His wealth couldn't save him from this embarrassment, not when the entire room had witnessed his arrogance collapse in the face of humility and intellect. And yet, deep inside him, something stirred. For the first time in years, he felt not just anger, but shame. Later that evening, Kareem stayed behind when the restaurant emptied. He couldn't shake the words Amira had spoken. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone society would label beneath him. He approached her quietly. No entourage, no mocking tone, just curiosity. "You're not just a waitress," he said. Amira paused in her cleanup, glanced at him, and then returned to stacking glasses. "I'm a person," she replied simply. But Kareem persisted. "Tell me, why are you here? Why work in this place when you could be anywhere else with your talent?" Amira sighed, resting her hands on the counter. For a moment, the walls she held so firmly began to lower. "Because life doesn't hand people like me easy paths. My mother raised me alone. I had scholarships, but bills don't stop for dreams. So I work. I study. I save. One day, I'll be more than this uniform. But until then, I serve with dignity. Kareem was silent. Her words carried weight, more than the empty praises of the millionaires he dined with daily. He remembered mocking her, laughing at her, treating her as less than human. And now, standing before her, he realized she was stronger than most of the people he surrounded himself with. For the first time, the billionaire felt small. The next week, Amira returned to work as usual. She didn't expect to see Kareem again. But on a quiet Tuesday evening, the restaurant manager called her into the office. Sitting there was Kareem, not dressed in his usual flamboyant suit, but in a simple shirt, no entourage, no arrogance. He looked at her with a seriousness that caught her off guard. "Amira," he said, "I came here not to humiliate you, but to ask for your help." She frowned, unsure if this was another trick. "Help? With what?" Kareem leaned forward. "My company is opening a new branch overseas. We're dealing with partners in North Africa and the Middle East. I've had translators, but none with your heart, your honesty. I want you to work for me, not as a waitress, but as a cultural advisor and language specialist." Amira blinked. Was this real? The same man who had mocked her publicly was now offering her a position that could change her life forever? She hesitated. "Why me?" Kareem looked down, then back at her. "Because you reminded me of something I forgot. That money isn't everything. That respect matters. That strength isn't loud, it's quiet. And I need people like you around me." Her chest tightened. For years, she had dreamed of a chance like this. But could she trust him? After a long silence, she finally said, "I'll accept on one condition. You never treat anyone the way you treated me that night. Not in English, not in Arabic, not in any language." Kareem's lips curved into a faint smile. Deal. Months passed, and Amira's life transformed. She left her waitress uniform behind and stepped into boardrooms, conferences, and international negotiations. She wasn't just speaking languages. She was building bridges, solving conflicts, and commanding respect in places billionaires couldn't buy their way into. Her story spread. At first whispers, then headlines. From waitress to international advisor. She inspired countless young women who felt overlooked, who thought their voices didn't matter. And Kareem? He changed too. With Amira by his side, he learned humility, respect, and the value of listening. The arrogant billionaire was slowly replaced by a man who realized the wealthiest person in the room wasn't always the richest, but sometimes the one who spoke with dignity. One evening, months later, Amira returned to that same restaurant, not as a waitress, but as a guest of honor, seated at the best table. The same staff who once saw her carrying trays now served her with admiration. And when she looked around at the new faces of waiters and waitresses, she smiled, because she knew respect wasn't just a language. It was a legacy. The billionaire had mocked her in Arabic, but her reply had changed both their lives forever. And in the end, the world learned a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate the power of a voice spoken with respect, no matter who it comes from.